Welcome to the Ridgecrest podcast. This is where we take time each week to sit down for a deeper look into the previous Sunday sermon. My name is Matt. I'm the executive and discipleship pastor here at Ridgecrest, and this week I am not joined with Michael Estes, our senior pastor. This week I have the pleasure of sitting down with our student pastor, Logan Elsey.
That is me.
Glad you could be here.
Glad that Michael's not here. Glad I can take his spot.
Yeah, and depending on how it goes, Michael may not come back to the podcast.
I don't know. I bet you he'll fight pretty hard for it.
Maybe. And then again, maybe it could be a disaster in such a way where we say we no longer need to do a podcast.
Let's not ever do this again. It'll be great.
This week, was a special time. It was a delayed, time because originally you had planned to do the senior recognition Sunday back in May, and the whole world kind of shut down for the time period. So it was good to be able to kind of get back into that and, still be able to kind of have that special moment, for those seniors. And it was great seeing those seniors, several of them who were here, Sunday for that. And the message you shared, spoke very, clearly into their lives, I believe. And, just a really good passage to look at. And so what I thought we could do, for this podcast is, typically, I would ask you some questions to kind of take a deeper look into the sermon. However, given the special circumstances, what I thought it'd be better is for you to have the opportunity to kind of speak to, students, who are going into college, or maybe even, some, their parents who maybe need to have some conversations, some key things that they can talk to them before going off to college, or, again, just volunteers in our church who need to know how to interact and how to, connect with college students once they leave and come back and all those types of things. And just thought, it'd just be a healthy time just to kind of talk through some of that and help them, because you mentioned in your sermon the idea of a lot of times it's like we're just, hitting them with a water hose, fire hose, and overload them with information. So I thought we could just kind of go through and just do some very practical things that they, would benefit of knowing going off and heading into college. And so to kind of start, first, what is kind of the first thing that kind of jumps out at, whenever you think about transitioning from that high school to college experience, one of the most important things that a student could know or learn during that time?
I'm so glad you asked. Well, first off, the stats. I know the stats, but let's kind of talk about it.
Yeah.
A decade or so ago, they were saying that it was 70%, 75% of students that when they left high school to go to college, they would never come back to the church.
Yeah.
And so now, I think it's a little bit lower. I think it's like 63 or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But so what we know is that more than half of our students who leave high school, go to college, that leave the church to go do things, we know that most of them, the majority of them, are not coming back to the church. And there's a few that come back after college. There's a few that go until they get married and have kids, and then they come back to church eventually. But there's a huge percentage of kids, for whatever reason, that the last time they really have any kind of interaction, deep interaction with church, is high school. And so the elephant in the room is that something happens either in student ministry or as they're transitioning into college, where they just decide that they don't want any part of church. And so the main goal of me as a student pastor is to equip students to live lives that glorify God. But a big part of that is equipping them to be able to survive and thrive in college. And so, we can unpack it from there, but the most important thing is to be involved in church and still continue to live for God and love Him and develop a deeper relationship with Him while you're in college. I had a guy who spoke into me a lot when I was in student ministry who said, how do you put it? He said, God doesn't get off His throne for 4 years while you're in school. And I feel like that really spoke to me, because a lot of the people that you talk to and a lot of us who have been through school can empathize with that, where, that was 4 years where no holds barred. You got to do whatever you wanted to. There were no consequences. And then you always said, when I get out of school, I'll figure my life out. I'll get back involved. And for a lot of people, it's not until they have kids. And then they look back on their time and they're like, what a wasted 4 years where I could have done so much. And I made a lot of bad decisions that I could have made good decisions. And there's a lot of regret that comes with that. And so I would just tell people, first and foremost, just keep running the race, keep going to church, keep developing a relationship with Jesus.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a good point where a lot of times the seniors, while they do kind of go into that college experience, are looking for something new. Many of which are leaving home, so they have a lot more freedom than they had previously. However, even in high school, you see that sometimes with some of these seniors who went through different transitions in high school, and now graduating high school didn't really make the most of that opportunity. And didn't
Yeah.
really solidify their faith there. And so that now when they transition to college, they don't even really know because they've held on to what
Right.
has been their parents' religion or their parents' tradition rather than really embracing that relationship with Christ.
And we've had students that have said, "Hey, I really wish I got more involved in school," or like they'll come as a senior and they'll be like, "I wish we had more time to really figure things out. I wish I would have come to you sooner." And not that it's about me in the slightest, but you know, we just really encourage students to ask questions, to work through their doubts, to work through questions and issues that they have, so that when they go out and they're by themselves, they don't just get absolutely blown away by the world. And so,
Yeah.
we're trying our best. And another stat, this is a very old stat, but it's like you only retain 25% of your senior class's attendance their senior year. And I get it, they're all you're visiting colleges, you're trying to figure out what that looks like, you're about to graduate, and there's all the stress that comes with finishing high school, coupled with the excitement of moving into a new season. Parents are doing last minute vacations and trying to spend as much time as they can with their kids. At the same time, I think that is a huge disservice, and I think it kills the momentum of spending time in church, spending time in the Word, spending time in relationships that glorify God. And I think it messes up a lot of our students as they go into school and they have to own that faith. Well, they haven't owned it. They definitely haven't owned it their senior year. Some of them have never owned it, and so they don't have a clue what to do when it's all on them.
Yeah. And the key aspect of that is while you may have a student who's listening to this podcast, or even a parent who's listening to it and thinking of their student who maybe did get in that culture as far as not really owning their faith in high school, but really what you're saying is that doesn't have to continue that trend through college. This is a perfect, again, transition opportunity to re-engage and really discover their faith in Christ during that time. And so for someone in that position to where maybe they didn't really own their faith, and now they're going off to college, what would you encourage them to do to help refine that and take that first step of getting plugged into that local church?
The great thing about college, and we say college, you don't have to be going to college. You could be going to trade school. You could be going to the workplace. It doesn't matter. I like to say that because we don't look down on anybody because they decide to go make money instead of going to school and doing all that stuff. But the great thing about this transition season is that you can be whoever you want to be. If you were a certain person in high school and you've just always wanted to change, you've wanted to try new things, you've wanted to kind of reinvent yourself, this is a great opportunity, especially if you're going to like a big school where no one knows you, or really any school. This can be a great time for you to say, you know what, in high school, I did these things, I made these mistakes, I did well at these other things. I really just want to change directions. And so for you, if in your high school you were known as the guy who made bad decisions, you were known as the kid who it could be as crazy as you were the guy who hated God and wanted nothing to do with him, but then your senior year you come to faith. This could be the perfect opportunity for you to say, now life is going to be different. And ways that looks like very practically are you go find a church, you go find a Bible study, you find an on-campus ministry, you find someone on your floor of your dormitory who you think loves Jesus, and you go hang out with that person. We had a former student who went to a college way out of state, and what he did is he literally just went to a bulletin board and saw all the different Bible studies on campus. He went to like 6 of them, and he did that because he found a crew of guys and people that were very nice, and he was friends with them, but they weren't necessarily making great decisions and choices, and he wanted to find new friends that he could share in his faith with. So he just shotgunned a whole bunch of Bible studies and met people that he knew and he liked, and now he has this group of friends that he's able to go to church with and grow in his faith with and do life with. And he just said, "This is important to me. This is what I'm going to be about." And so it's really just saying, "This is who I'm going to be," and stepping up. And that's much easier said than done. But I think college is a great opportunity because everything's new.
Yeah.
Everything is, you're having to figure everything out. So you might as well make that a priority.
Yeah, that's really good. And you mentioned a couple of times that the importance of getting plugged into a local church. A lot of these students, again, have grown up, several maybe have grown up in Ridgecrest their entire life, or, have been involved in other churches. Well, part of that, their parents are choosing where they go to church. And so these students may not know how to do that. How would you instruct a student, and when they get to campus, or again, like you said, maybe they're just going somewhere to work, or finding, how would you walk them through finding a church to get plugged into?
Yeah. So most of your churches in college towns understand it's a college town. They understand there's students who are coming that are trying to figure this out. And for the most part, the vast majority of them are very, very good at reaching college students, which for you as a college student means that there's going to be people around to make themselves available, to talk to you, whatever. A lot of colleges and different organizations will do like progressive church tours, which is literally like, you'll spend a day and you'll go to these different churches and you'll meet the pastor, you'll meet the college pastor, you'll meet the people who are already in the ministry, you'll hang out with them. You have on-campus ministries like BSU, RUF, what am I missing? Crew,
BCM.
Yep, all these different things. I mean, there's a campus ministry.
Just about any acrostic you can think of, there's probably a Christian organization using those three initials.
And so, and they kill themselves to make themselves available for college students because it's literally their job. And so on the passive side, people are going to find you and they're going to reach out to you. I wouldn't encourage that to be the only thing that you do. I would very much encourage you to kind of step out. It could be a Google search of colleges in the area. I mean, churches in the area. If you're going to the major state schools in Mississippi, I've got a good recommendation list that I've gotten from people who actually have gone to these churches, and so you can come talk to me. Doesn't matter. The one rule that I tell people is when you're church shopping or when you're trying to find a church family is give it at least 3 weeks. The reason why is because if you just go one Sunday and judge everything off that Sunday, you could have the worst experience of your life or the best experience of your life. The worship could have been amazing. The pastor could have hit a complete home run, preached the best sermon of his life, or it could have been the most off week that church has ever had, where things don't go right. There were mistakes. The pastor just didn't, had mistakes, didn't do well. But what I've seen is that 3 weeks, if you go for 3 weeks straight, you can kind of see what that church is about.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people tend to be like first impressions. I go once, there was one thing I didn't like about it, and so I bail. And I would just say, give it a few tries, and then go try some on-campus ministries out, but really find a church that you can plug in with. And we can talk about different things like college ministry and what that looks like too. But that's what I would say is just give it a chance and really put yourself out there and go try some things. I'll ask you a question now because I just thought about it. What do you think of the relationship between a college church and a home church, and how do you navigate that of like having us Ridgecrest as a home church, but then let's say you're going to Oxford and you find a church there? How do you kind of navigate that relationship?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Some churches are, you don't hear about it as much anymore, but used to you'd have what they'd call I'm just drawing a blank on it, but it was kind of like a temporary
membership, basically.
Yeah, like a joint membership kind of deal. However, the way that I've always kind of approached that is, I want, specifically talking about those students that are going away, I want them to find a local church, that's biblical, sound doctrinally, all those types of things that they can plug into, they can, get involved with, serve with, and those types of things. I want that to be their new home church. And,
right.
Whenever they come back home, maybe they come home for the summer. Of course, a lot of students are now even not doing that because they're renting an apartment, so they're staying up there all year and working a job and all those types of things. But when they do come back, definitely want to be able to welcome them back to their home church, help them feel welcome, help them plug into some of the local college students that we might have, and allow them to interact with them and, again, share different experiences, because while one student may be at Starkville, one maybe here locally or wherever. When you come back, you get to kind of share and enjoy. Say, hey, here's some of the experiences I've had. These are some of the challenges I've had at school, or here's some of the experiences I've faced at this school, or whatever. And be able to kind of talk through those things, and then go back. And
Right.
again, go back to that new home church that they found and plugged into and involved. Because again, we have to look at it as we are in God's kingdom. It's not just Ridgecrest Baptist Church. Definitely want those college students to always feel welcome back, but I care more about seeing them actively plugged and engaged, where they're spending at least 9 months out of the year, if not more than that.
Yeah, and that's it. To me, it's a volume. It's a volume thing. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, if we were to just really hold it down and be like, we're your church. You need to make sure you're coming to our church. Which I don't know if anyone really does this. Like, you're coming 4 times a year, maybe. You
Yeah.
know, like fall break, Thanksgiving, spring
Yeah.
break, and sometimes in the summer. Whereas you could be spending every week really plugging in with a community of people in the same boat as you, as well as people who really know how to teach and lead college students in these college towns. And I just think it would behoove us to just come alongside that, to say like, look, we're here for you. And that's what we said on Sunday. Like, as a church, as Ridgecrest, we are your sending church.
Yeah.
We are sending you out. We have equipped you to as best as we know how to into the world, and we will always be here for you.
That's
you know,
right.
when you come home, we're here. If you ever have questions or you need advice or you just want to hang out, like we are here for you. But we think it's very important for you to plug in with your own church body and live out the gospel where you're at.
That's right.
Because if you're living in Oxford or North Dakota or whatever, it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to be your church when you live in a different town and you have a whole different context in which you're living, and there's a whole different group of people that you're doing life with that's not us.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I think we're never gonna forget about you.
Sure.
But we have sent you out,
Yeah.
and we hope that you, as you're going out, plug in and find somewhere that you can kind of land.
Yeah, and you and you see that in the New Testament, with Paul and Timothy, and you have all these relationships that people form. And again, it was a sending culture. They knew they could always come back. There was still correspondence, through letters or meetings or whatever it might be. However, we're sending you out to make disciples where you are. And the danger of holding on to say, well, Ridgecrest is my home church. Well, then you never get plugged into a local church. So now you're spending 9 months out of the year not plugged in anywhere. So you're not growing spiritually, and then it's easy to kind of grow up into that or adopt that mindset of, oh, well, yeah, I'm a Christian because my parents are, and I grew up at this church and I went there, but now I don't really plug in anywhere. And so
Right.
there's significant danger in holding on to that home church mentality as far as this is my church and I can't go anywhere else because, again, you're in that community. Plug in, serve, and our vision here is to know God, serve others, reach our world. We definitely encourage them to do that in the community in which they live, and plugging into a local church is a great way to start that process.
And see, I was the flip side of that because I went to church fairly local. I was in Clinton, and so I stayed at my home church.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, believe me, because then you move into more of a leadership role at your home church.
Yep.
There's a lot of depth of relationship and history, and you're able to really grow into that church. And so we don't have very many students who are staying local, but we do have some. And what I would encourage them to do is, instead of pulling away and being like, all right, I'm in college now, this isn't necessarily a college town, and so there's not a whole bunch of college students around, I would encourage you to dive in head first into ministry here at Ridgecrest.
Absolutely.
Find a place to serve, find a place to lead. You're now officially, in a lot of cases, you're officially an adult. You're able to be leading children, students, other adults. Like, this is a time where you could really take that next step into what does it look like to serve the church and to know God as an adult. And this would be an amazing time to figure that out. A lot of times I think we tend to, in which we as a church mostly have kids going out into the state or into the country for college, but we do have some that stay. And I think a lot of times we forget about, what do I do if I'm at Holmes? What do I do if I'm at Mississippi College or Millsaps? The question is, or the answer is, dive deep. Continue to get involved even more, because in college you have more time than you'll ever have. to do stuff like that. Yeah. Because you'll only get busier.
Yeah, and for the students who say, well, I may be old enough to lead, but I don't really feel comfortable leading. Here at Ridgecrest, we have a great, internship kind of leadership development program, and it's paid. So
Yeah, you
college
have a
students,
job.
colleges have the opportunity to work here at Ridgecrest, and we, depending on the areas they serve in, we've got staff that's pouring into them, teaching them practical things as far as leadership, whether they're going into ministry or not. It's just practical leadership and learning to be a Christian leader, whatever area of work you fall in. And, it's a great opportunity for them to, take that next step of just additional training and equipping so they are given the opportunity to lead. And I think, again, it's a great option for those students who are local. The students that are going away and maybe coming back in the summer, again, another great opportunity to do that in the summer.
And like student ministry, we have summer interns.
Yeah.
In children's ministry, we have summer interns. Worship ministry, summer interns.
Yeah.
As well as during the school year-long internships for more local people.
Right.
And you get college credit. You get paid. You get to hang out with people and do fun activities and events. I love being an intern.
Yeah.
I was an intern at my church in college, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. And so definitely encourage all, students who are listening, if, even parents or adults who are listening, if you know of some local college students or students that'll be here in the fall, reach out. We'd love to, see if there's a fit for them as far as an intern here at Ridgecrest. As we, kind of transition and begin, kind of wrap things up. I know you brought kind of your summer reading books.
Yeah, sure. Call it that.
But tell me a little bit about the books that you brought.
So I've got 5 books, and these are just the ones I found on my bookshelf before we walked in here. There's a couple that I really encourage. There's a couple that just me personally, I liked a lot in college. The 2 that we actually give out to students. One is A Different College Experience. Stephen, how's this looking camera-wise? Can we see?
Yep.
Okay. A Different College Experience by Ben Trueblood and Brian Mills. This is a great, just overall, all-encompassing book of, how can you change your college experience to be one that's not so self-centered, but more God-centered and Christ-centered? And just how do you survive college as a Christian who's trying to live for Jesus? I really like it. We give it out to all of our seniors. Another one that I give out to a lot of people who ask and who say, Logan, I'm terrible at reading the Bible. I'm terrible at daily Bible study. I'm terrible at spending time in God's Word. How can I be better at that? Well, there's a lot of different answers. One, which is just read your Bible more. But a tool that kind of helps you do that is this book called New Morning Mercies by Paul David Tripp. Paul David Tripp's a really cool guy. And what he did is he took tweets that he had tweeted over the years and turned it into a one-page devo that it has a biblical truth. It's a tweet. He explains it in one page, and then he has, for further study, a passage for you to read. And so if you're really late for class and you don't have time to do anything and all you can do is just get the one tweet of truth that you can think on, that's great. If you've got 10 minutes where you can just read the page devo, then do that, and it's great. And if you've got enough time to be able to really read the whole page and sit in that scripture, that's even better. And so, have you messed with this book any?
I haven't.
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's because it's quick and easy, but it also kind of opens the gate for you to really spend time in scripture.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And then I got 3 other books, and there's a couple that we can talk about. These just helped me out a lot. We don't have to talk about them a whole lot. One that I'll do is Christian Beliefs by Wayne Grudem. If you don't know who Wayne Grudem is, he wrote this giant book, thousands and thousands of pages, called Systematic Theology. And he basically took that giant book and condensed it into this book called 20 Basics Every Christian Should Know. And he just breaks down a random page. What are angels, Satan, and demons? And he explains it. What is the church? He explains it. It just takes theological concepts and makes it stupid simple.
Yeah.
And so if you're someone who is just asking questions, this is a really easy book. Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. This book just taught me what it means to be a man who loves God and loves Jesus and how to be healthy in that. I love John Eldridge. Don't Waste Your Life. This is just the quintessential college book. It's based off of a sermon John Piper did in early 2000s or 90s or something. And the whole premise is, don't waste your life. You've been given this life to change the world for Jesus. Why would you waste it and make the whole focus of your life your 401k? Why would you make the whole point of your life to just, I don't know, not get sick and make a little bit of money? Instead, let's commit our lives to bringing God's kingdom here and changing the world forever. Some other books that were really good for me: Crazy Love by Francis Chan. I became a Christian right as Radical by David Platt came out, so that obviously shaped me. And the Bible's really good too. I know you didn't bring any books, but any off the top of your head worth mentioning?
Yeah, the two you just mentioned there were great. Like Gospel Above All by Platt, is really good. Gaining by Losing, it's a little bit more of a, if you got a Christian who's kind of in a
Is
leadership
Gospel
position.
Above All by Platt or J.D. Greer?
J.D. Greer, sorry, J.D. Greer. And then Gaining by Losing by J.D. Greer as well. And it kind of helps think through, that sending culture and, us looking at, kind of evaluating if I'm being sent by Ridgecrest, what does that look like? And
Right.
so it's a, great book there. And, again, countless others. One thing for me, whenever I was going into college, I was not a reader whatsoever. I hated reading. I did good to read my Bible, and I just despise sitting down and reading. I've never read a full book until I got to seminary. So, I mean, I despised it. However, now, I realize how much I missed out by reading. And the easy way, like for me, I'm a slow reader because I never read. But you can go online and find like little calculators to see how many books you can read and that sort of thing based on how fast you go. And the average reader, if you spend 30 minutes a day reading a book, they can read about 33 books a year.
Which is crazy. Nobody does that.
Which is crazy, yeah. And so, I mean, 30 minutes a day is nothing. I mean, and so I encourage college students, to use this as an opportunity. You're going to be studying, you're going to be doing some stuff like that, but take 30 minutes a day just to sit aside, some time to read a practical, just life book that, can help you grow spiritually and develop in that Christian walk and help really be a refreshing time rather than just worrying about studying biology and those types of things.
And what helps me, I do like reading, but what helped me just fly through books is audiobooks.
Yeah.
Like this is a perfect example. Don't Waste Your Life is a, 200-page book that is based off of a sermon that John Piper did. And so if you should read the book because it goes into way more detail, but the premise of it is a sermon. So you could go on YouTube and just watch John Piper Don't Waste Your Life sermon and get the gist of it. Mm-hmm. You could listen to an audiobook on your commutes or while you're exercising and fly through books. You can listen to podcasts where people talk in detail about their books and get a lot from that. And so reading is not the only way, and you know that.
Yeah,
but it's not the only way to do things, but it's a both and. It's like it's not a I hate reading, so I'm never going to read books. It's I want to read books when I can, but I'm going to supplement by audiobooks, by podcast, by talking to people, by sitting across from people and saying, hey, what do you think about these things? What does Scripture mean to you? And just doing life with people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And, as I want to just kind of reiterate what Logan said, early on. He said in the sermon and in today's podcast, college students, we are here for you, as your home sending church. And so whether you're leaving the area or staying local, know that we as a church, as Ridgecrest, are here to support you any way that we can. And so if you have any questions about these books that Logan shared, or, have any questions about, hey, I just want something else to read or just need, additional resource or whatever, reach out. Never hesitate to reach out, specifically with this, to Logan, myself, anyone on staff. We'd be happy to help you and get you some resources that you need. Logan would probably be the best person to reach out to because he's going to have the most practical resources, for that, transitioning from senior to college, and things like that. And so, don't hesitate, and again, use this transition as an opportunity to, really intentionally focus on your faith, make it real, and really, learn to love Jesus through college.
And the last thing is, if you're the guy or girl who's going off to college and you don't know what church to go to, come talk to us. We can either A, give you our recommendation list, or B, I can just put you in contact with someone who's probably been to your place. I don't care if you're going to North Dakota State. I can probably find somebody to get you in contact with. And then B, if you're local, and you're wondering about our college ministry, yes, we have a college ministry. If you're wondering what internships look like, if you're wondering what the future looks like for you as a Ridgecrest member while in college,
Yeah.
come talk to us. We
Yeah.
have, I mean, we're not just blowing smoke. We have lots of opportunities
Sure.
for you to get plugged in. And so, basically, if you're a college student, you should be contacting me for some reason.
That's right.
And we'll hang out. We'll have a good time.
Yeah, that's great. And we have a very strong desire to equip these college students so that they are going to college or staying local, whatever it may be. They're loving Jesus, they're serving, and then they're participating in a local church. And so again, that was a great point. Logan said if you are a college student going into college, maybe been there a while and still kind of wrestling through some things, reach out to Logan. Talk to him. If you're a parent and kind of saying, well, I don't know what my child is thinking about, odds are you're not alone. So come talk to Logan, and and we can figure that out, and he can give you a book to read so you can try to figure out what.
If you're a parent that's struggling, come talk to me. I'll send you to Jenna, who will be able to answer your questions.
But as always, we appreciate you listening, and would encourage you to share this podcast, whether you're watching or listening on various podcast platforms. But share it with a college student that you may know, whether they're connected here at Ridgecrest or not. So that they can be equipped and feel confident going in, owning their faith when they go to college. Logan, appreciate you taking time to sit down and talk with me today. And as always, we appreciate you listening. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.